That might be the funniest thing I've heard all night.
Oh yeah, we're good. We're good on the mics. All right, it is 7:02. I'll go ahead and order the Wednesday, June 21st regular scheduled meeting of the Welldow 5G Board Meeting to order. If you all would take a moment, silence your cell phones and/or pagers. Rise and join the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag's on the back of the room. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Jessica, would you please take a roll?
Let's see. Monica Johnson.
Here.
Amanda Proctor is excused this evening. Nate Cesano.
Here.
Jeremy Scott.
Here.
Michael Webb.
Here. I don't know what I was trying to say. We do need to approve our agenda for this evening. Do we have any changes to the
We have
agenda?
no changes.
Okay. I didn't motion.
That we approve as presented. Second.
We have a motion by Reverend Scott, a second by Vice President Sassano to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have an agenda. Do we have any citizen comments on agenda topics?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Well, let's move on to some staff and student celebrations and recognitions.
Well, student celebrations, and I'm glad Mrs. Borison is here tonight because I wanted to acknowledge Mrs. Borison and the Interact Club who on last Saturday, June 10th, they spent the day up in Estes Park with 200 Rotarians across Colorado, Wyoming, and a little bit of Nebraska to share about how we have grown our Roosevelt High School Interact Club from 13 members to over 200. And they packed room to learn about what we do and how we do it and just the highlights of what our student body does. They all presented it in an interactive way so that Rotarians weren't sitting in a lecture like this, but we're moving from station to station, learning about how you can letter in Interact, what the importance of service to others, and then a couple fun games. Mrs. Borison, did you want to add anything else? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you're good at it. You're good.
It was a really amazing experience. I haven't been to a Rotary Research Conference since probably 2014. So surrounded by Rotarians and the support and the feelings of just being able to have someone to reach out to and need something as an Interact Club, it was really just a wonderful experience. I got to take our Office of Interact and potential officers of Interact up there with me, and so it was a really good time.
And, I don't know if you know this, but Mrs. Borison can also drive a school bus. Do you know how golden that is? And so,
Really?
So, thank you, Mrs. Morrison, and thank you, Interact. You made a big impact on Rotarians such as myself throughout several states. The other highlight that I wanted to share is that, last year we had students completed 668 credits of concurrent enrollment in Ames. From 2021 to 2022, but in 2022 to 2023, 1,325 Ames credits were earned. And that shows you the power of Roosevelt and Ames partnership of being able, and students and families understanding the importance of being able to not only get your high school credits, but to do some concurrent moments and get some college credits as well. Mr. Benson's here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Benson.
We're really proud of it. And, it's just fantastic. It was a focus of making the connections for our kids for post-secondary success. So they're taking a lot of advantage of it. So pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Not sure if you guys got the bill yet.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, in the past, we've always said, this is one area where we're okay to be over budget.
Yeah.
I think we were like talking 10, 15 hours, like we're almost.
We're a smidge.
Michael, we were good?
And you know, that includes college credit classes, but also for CE for special certification. So we're growing in both areas, so. And that concludes celebrations for me.
All right, let's move on to some really boring stuff. Oh, wait. Oh, we still have one more celebration. So.
Oh, my
It was.
It's cold, look at that.
The keyword was, the word was gonna be, let them have cake. So if you're not aware, this is Karen's last meeting with Board of Education. And so we wanted to just do a few little things to recognize what you've given to this district over the last 2 years and try in a probably a very feeble way to pay some gratitude to you for that. If boards have anything they want to say, Amanda did send something that she wanted me to read. Doggone it, and I might have a problem doing that. Well, let's just get into it, right? So Amanda shares this. She says, I sincerely appreciate you choosing to end your career in education with the RE5 community. It's an honor to know you, to work with you, and to see others admire you. The amount of lives you have touched, the people that you have truly seen for themselves, the hard work and effort you've poured this job, it's all been seen and felt. I hope that you continue on to your next adventure with as much heart and leadership you've shown us. And I hope that the love come back to you tenfold. I'd say 100. Thank you for the hugs, the laughter, the tears, the worry, the strategic visioning, the revamping of plans, hard hat hair, I don't know what that is, and showing up fully. And that's Amanda. I'd open it up to the rest of you guys if you want to say anything. Other we have some other things we want to talk about.
I would love to say something. I think that everyone here would be in agreement. It's when Karen came, I felt like we had a broken district. And Karen came in and with her leadership, picked up all those pieces of brokenness, dusted them off, and then turned to her admin staff and her teachers and her administrators and said, okay, let's get this done together. And didn't do the work for them, but gave them the confidence and encouragement to do what they were more than capable to do, which is put our district back together. And such a whole, concise piece that I think it's better than what any of us could have imagined. And for someone to be able to do that, to empower a community of teachers and administrators to be able to do that with such grace and dignity takes leadership, in at least my understanding. And those were the magic of Karen Tressler, your special brand of magic that is your hard work. Everyone here knows that if a job is to be done and just doesn't say go do it, she puts on her hard hat and said, hey, let's go do this together. And she gives that confidence and builds that leadership. She's not giving her hands dirty. And we put this district back together. For that, we will always be grateful.
Well, you folks, I think that we all came together, and I am so very thankful. This has been, at least for me, a place I felt like I wanted to come. When I found out, I reached out for whatever reason, and when I was I knew that this community's always had a hook in from when I was first here as a new substitute teacher and failed miserably in the classroom at the middle school level. When I had the opportunity that there might be a chance to work in this community, and I came here, and when I think about team, I think about all of you in this room who are confident enough to come and talk to me to my face and say, I disagree with you, you're full of baloney, but let's figure it out. Those of you who will come to me and say, I need some help, what can you do? Those of you who will reach out and say, let's do this together. When there's an issue, people come together and talk. We may not always agree. Then sometimes in this very room that we did not agree, and yet we figured out how to work together, and that's what is so dynamic about this community. We've analyzed together, we advocated together, we problem solved together, we cried together, we celebrated together. And I'm just so very thankful to be a part of this for the last 2 years. He was talking about, we count superintendents when they retire, they count their board meetings, not the number of days. And so when it finally hit today, I think, oh, this is it. And I am just so tickled pink to see all of you here who've made an impression on me, you've inspired me. I know this place is in good hands with future leadership and because of the people in the room. So thank you all. And I will forever be for you folks giving me the opportunity to be here. So thank you.
You guys want to?
Well, not that. I don't have much to add. Monica said it all very well. One thing I will just note is, Chairman and I came on the board at the same time and been through it on this. And when we were looking for an interim superintendent, you called me and said, this really weird email from Karen Trussler. And Milo had the opportunity to work under you in Windsor when you were superintendent over there. And I said, we have to get her. There's nobody else on the list. And I am so glad you gave us the last 2 years, which I don't think any of us were expecting, but just put it very well. You have put us back together. So we appreciate that for all you have done for this district. Put us on good foot going forward. And I guess I'm not as emotional because I know you will still be around. You already agreed to mentor Scott wherever I don't know what you might expect. So I know your hands will still be on this district. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess just to add on to Gary, we came along the first 2 years serving on this board were interesting. And if I think back to where we were in this room 2 years ago versus where we are now, I don't, in my most optimistic self, would probably not have allowed myself to imagine that we are as far as we are. I didn't know you were, but I heard rumor, my unsolicited calls from parishioners saying, if you don't hire Karen, you're an idiot. And it did not take long for my soul to settle and realize that we may actually be getting back on the we need to be on, and there may be a path forward for us to a good and healthy place again. You do sometimes wonder, given the shape we were in, what people's motivations are for wanting to come at a time like that. Usually they come in a couple of different forms. One who wants to come and do it selflessly, who wants to just to give and support, to build up others, is rare. That is not genuinely what you find. So I just feel blessed that you were willing to come to us at the time you did and take on incredibly hard work that I know you've worked on the last 2 years. And it has been a privilege, and I am grateful to get to spend the last 2 years.
Appreciate everyone's patience with me, your kindness, your goodwill, your forgiveness, especially for those snow days you had in the snow. So, shall we eat cake?
Well, no. Just racing, you got a date or something tonight?
I
There's not a over-under going on.
might. You don't know what the bet is.
Yeah.
For you every time out.
I mean, I don't know what to add that these guys haven't already said. I've had the opportunity to be exposed to all kinds of leadership. Never anybody like you, though. And Reverend Scott mentioned it, the selflessness, but it's not only that, it's the how genuine you are when you're dealing with people. When we had the issues with COVID, we had the issues with the recall, and I remember sitting down with you, that was probably one of the first meetings you and I ever had together. And your response to that was, well, let's sit down with these people and see where we can find some common ground. That was an unheard of tactic prior to your arrival here. And that blew me away. And I think it blew them. But at the end of the day.
Walked out to the picket line
Yeah.
and Tammy came out.
Exactly. But it's made a difference, and it's made a difference in, I'm sure it's made a difference in everybody who's had the opportunity to see it. It's definitely made a difference in me and in the way I try to approach leadership now. And so I just want to thank you for that. You're still teaching, and I'm still learning. So we were going to get you a bell, but then we thought, why clutter your house up with more stuff? We'll get you one
You
that you
know I
can eat.
like consumable things.
But then we also thought, should we get you a plaque? Should we get you the crystal apple? Should we get you the clock? We used to do rocking chairs. That was a big thing. We did rocking chairs. So we did something a little different. We're going to give you a building. And there is absolutely no way in the world that I could read that without cracking. So if somebody, David, you probably have the best one on that. Do you want to read that? Because our viewing audience can't hear it.
The Karen Trussler Greenhouse. The building is in honor of Karen Trussler, Superintendent of Schools, 2021 through 2023. Visionary leadership nurtured and grew our school district. Through her tireless efforts, our educational experience flourished, and her commitment to sustainability and growth has left an enduring legacy within our community. May this greenhouse continue to inspire and cultivate the minds of future generations. Dedicated by the Weld RE5J Board of Education 2023.
We thought it was appropriate because every tour we've been on, when we go in that room, you can see the greenhouse from the room at the new high school. Her eyes light up. Look at that thing. Every single time.
First thing she wants to see.
That's right.
So that's kind of a mock-up of, we're trying to figure out where the plaque will sit, because we can't actually attach it to the surface itself. But yeah, we want everybody who walks in there to know who you are and the mark you left on this district. So
I think it's 32 by 32 feet. Is that what it was?
yeah, yeah, it's pretty big. It's pretty big.
A lot of flowers and tomatoes.
So let's cake.
Let's have cake.
We need to take an official recess.
Yeah,
Wow.
we will go ahead and recess at 7:21. All right. We'll come back from our recess at 7:51. Did everyone have enough cake?
Well, I don't know about enough, but
It was delicious.
very good.
And we can give a plug to Ms. Rusco for that. That was.
Yes.
Wow, what a cake.
Yeah.
She does a good job.
You got room in your fridge for that, all that, right?
Either that or we're gonna be eating all night. Good challenge.
Well, let's move on to our reports and comments from board members, if there are any.
Well, I'll go first. President Wells today I got to participate in the school program that Weld RE5J put on, and it was so much fun. It's being held at Pioneer Ridge Elementary, but students from across the board attend. So we had representation from Milliken Elementary, from Elwell, and from Pioneer Ridge, and we were there as library outreach team. And we had such a time getting to know the staff, the students, the parents, and it was a lot of fun. My vocal cords got really sore. I thought all of those teachers, they must have some strong vocal cords because it takes a lot of talking to be able to give instructions, but they were respectful and good, and we got to do some STEAM activities. So it was we had a great time with them. And that's a great program. I know we read that ability to do that through a grant, and I feel that those are grant dollars that are being used brilliantly. It was really fun.
From the libraries?
No, it was an educational grant.
Okay.
Yeah. And we just got to be a participant.
The 21st century grant.
Okay.
The house at Northern Elementary.
Okay.
And we do a 2-week summer enrichment camp. We did it last year. This is our second year, and it's all about experiential learning and fun.
I mean, they're making.
Monica's probably exhausted.
No, it's so fun. We had so much help, but we got to see some of the other projects, and kids are painting flower boxes. They had all the flower boxes out drying in the pod, and then they're going to bring in dirt and soil and plant flowers, from what I understand, and that's just one of their enrichment activities. I know they were doing.
built those boxes.
Oh, they built them too?
Yes, they're learning how to use lots of tools.
Oh, fun.
And applying their math skills.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat. And what I say was what you just mentioned about the different, the students from different schools and how they're building friendships across the schools. Really neat too.
I love that, because eventually they'll all merge into Roosevelt High School, and so it's fun to see those friendships forming at an early stage. So it was really, really great experience. We really loved it. So that's fine.
Well, cool. Speaking of grants, I'll just jump in real quick. Last week, was it last week? Yeah. The Well came and gave a presentation to the district at L, and I got to sit in on that. And it was really interesting, and I was talking with the guy from who does the education grants afterwards. So they took a good portion of the presentation and asked the room, like, what is it that you guys are seeing? What is the need in this community? And where do you use some help? And I mentioned it to him afterwards. I said, do you run into a lot of communities where they're like, when you have that question, like, nope, everything's fine here and we're great. We have all these things going on. I said, we'll definitely ask for money where we need it. But he said, no, he said, most of the places they go, people have been pretty honest. But it was really cool for them just to sit there and ask those questions, but then kind of pry a little bit, get some more out. So they got a sense of some of the things that we struggle with as a district, some of the things we struggle with as a community, and where it might be able to come in and help us. So that was really exciting, and I'm glad that we could host that. I think there was people from Meade, and there was a guy from one of the behavioral health centers, I think, too. She was from North Range, okay. I thought she was, but I couldn't. I was sitting right beneath one of those fans, and so I couldn't hear anything. So yeah, that was cool. And then, yeah. Looking on my schedule here, that was it. A couple tours of the high school, the new high school. It's amazing how it went along. I mean, it's just still every time you go in, there's something new getting done, so it's exciting.
Well, speaking of grants,
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, a month ago now, one of our teachers at Pioneer Ridge applied for, I forget the name of the grant, but it's from the Stampede. And they've used that money, $2,500, to improve the front of Pioneer Elementary. So the planting beds and some of those kind of things that have just been aged for a while in front of that building. So they got some community, some teachers, some Stampede staff members came and did the work to plant a bunch of plants and put in some new edging and that kind of stuff. Brenna PRE, the building looks finished now after the renovation. So they did a really good job. I just wanted to say thank you, Ms. Herman, at Pioneer Ridge for taking that on and leading that charge. And then again, the high school tours have just been a ton of fun. Had the opportunity to go with a couple of community members and show them around. And then last week took soon-to-be sophomore daughter out there who hadn't seen it since it's literally studs and wires. So when you walk around with studs and electrical cables, you kind of go, well, it's neat, but I don't know. But when you walk around when it's done, she was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can't believe I get to go to school there. So the kids and this kid are really going to benefit from that building, and especially from that Karen Tressler greenhouse. So, it's been a lot of fun to see that building come together as quickly as it has. So it's good.
I was gonna say the one thing I forgot, it reminded me when you mentioned your daughter. We did see a presentation last Wednesday from some students, some folks, some kids in this program, and then the FBLA students. And so in the new school, there's going to be a kind of a cafe shop that's going to be student run. And so they were kind of pitching to us what the plan was and how they're going to utilize it. And it was really cool, like to kind of sit there and listen, because the ACE kids were talking about, this is the things we're going to sell. These are the things we're going to make. This is how, we're going to have employees. And, they were talking all this front of house stuff. Then the FBLA kids came up and they said, so what we've decided to do is partner with the ACE kids. And, we're going to provide all the back end office stuff, So we'll handle the budgeting, we'll handle fulfillment, the ordering, all the accounting, make sure that everything's, and it was really kind of cool, like, oh, okay. But I guess, I don't know what you need from us, but it's like, you got it under control. So that was really exciting, really cool. And that's the kind of stuff that, kind of like you were saying with the kids, doing the stuff at Pioneer Ridge, building the boxes and, taking it over, taking the whole control of the whole thing that's what's so exciting to see. And that new little shop is going to be evidence of that as well. So good stuff.
I had some students approach me and talking about that meeting, saying, oh, we also want to do this and this, and we need to figure out if we can do cash transactions because some of the freshmen won't have debit cards. And they are really thinking this through. It was impressive to see them think it through. So it was really cool.
It'll be fun to see how that comes to life. So anything else? All right, let's go to our superintendent's report.
The superintendent's report for June is all on construction. And just to let you know, at Ledford, the asbestos abatement is complete.
What?
Yay!
Finally.
You've said that 3 times.
And so they're now working at, the ground needs to dry so they can finish out all of the piles and piles of concrete and other things. Don't have a final date as when it's going to be turned over, but Mr. Nielsen will take care of that. It's all yours. Pioneer Ridge, as Nate talked about with their the bond projects that are done, as well as the staff and the parent community there continues to work on grants for playground renovation. And I know that's going to be coming soon. Not as soon as some of the kids want, but I know that we will have a new playground there in the near future. RHS staff and all of their treasures from Old Roosevelt have been moved to Peggy and I saw yesterday in the gym area and in construction, not in the gym, construction and in the auditorium. And so as they're doing the final touches, at New Roosevelt. They're able to begin renovating Old Roosevelt or Roosevelt Middle School. And I'll be taking a tour of that in the next couple days to see what that's looking like. And then July 19th, we will be having the district will be having the groundbreaking for Roosevelt Middle School in lieu of our work session. So plan on that in the late afternoon. And then finally at Milliken Elementary School, oh my goodness, the renovations. They're working on the core, the front, the preschool playground. They've taken out the fourplex, the 4 modular classrooms, and now we're working on moving the modular that was in the front of the building. That needs to be moved in order to do the front of the building, and so that's coming soon as well. New Roosevelt, we've been told to park on the north side for tours, but they are painting the lines on the north side. So we're still going to the south side and walking through to getting our PPE. Just another aspect of what makes this community partnership, that everyone is pitching in and working together, from businesses to everyone that I mentioned earlier. And I think it's also important to understand that the leadership at this table, my bosses, set the standard of partnering, and I appreciate all that you've done in order to build so that we thrive. So thank you. And that concludes the superintendent's report for June 21st, 2023. Whatever.
Any questions?
Not a question. I should have mentioned it in my report though about the Pioneer Ridge Playground. I've talked about several times, and I did reach out to the Johnstown town staff and asked them if we could meet to just talk about options and ideas around how we might fund that project. So it's summer, they're all gone on vacation. So Matt said he'd get back to me as he had an idea from the town board. So I'll let all of us know when we have something to meet about and talk about with that group. So
Part of that is to try to take advantage of the GOCO grant if possible.
that's one option. Yeah.
And then I know with Well Trust, we've also stated that we kind of have to have some skin in the game, obviously.
Well Trust likes to see community or partnerships with other organizations, and the town could be one of those organizations if they're willing to bring some funding to the table. It's also considered a town park, so maybe they'll just fund the whole thing. I don't know. We'll see. But that's what the ask is, or the conversation needs to be about, is what options are on the table.
Okay. Anything else? Are you sure?
Yes, if it's any longer, be careful.
We'll move on to our consent agenda. I'm not generally an Apple guy, so I use the Apple stuff. I go backwards. So our adopted rules of procedure provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Most of the items under the consent agenda have gone through board review and recommendation. Documentation concerning these items have been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice President Sassano, second by Director Johnson. Any discussion? None. Jessica, would you poll the board?
Monica Johnson,
Aye.
Michael Whale,
Yes.
Kate Sassano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott.
Yes.
Okay. We'll move to our old business.
Our old business involves the policy amendments as per just updates that Mrs. Miller brought forward last month. We do not have any revisions, suggestions, or any feedback from community members who are concerned about it. We're ready to move forward on these policy amendments.
Okay. Are there any questions? Do you have some recommended action or recommended motion?
I will move that we adopt the amendments for policies JKA, JKA-R, JKA-E-1, JKA-E.
Second.
We have a motion by Reverend Scott, a second by Vice President Sassano to adopt amendments for policy JKA, JKA-R, JKA-E, discussion? Jessica, would you please pull the board?
Monica Johnson,
Yes.
Nate Sisano, Jeremy Scott,
Yes.
Michael Whale.
Yes. Need to talk about some money, I guess, huh?
This is, wow, this is the CFO's meeting tonight. And we have approval for the proposed budget for 2023-2024. You heard it in detail and in depth last month. Mr. Evers, what else would you like to share or highlight on any changes, revisions?
Thank you, Superintendent Trevor, President Wales, members of the board. Tonight, I guess to answer Superintendent Trusser's question, there hasn't been any, really any input into there's no comments that I've heard. So what I'd like to do this evening is to request approval for the proposed budget for the 2020-2024 school year. That'll include approval appropriation resolution and approval of the use of beginning balance resolution. As Superintendent Tressler alluded to, June 7th, we have the full budget presentation. And by state law, our budget must be approved by June 30th. And then on the next slide is just a page of our appropriation resolution. And the next page is our use of beginning fund balance resolution. So this concludes my presentation for this. I can answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? So we have a couple different options on this because we're looking at not only the district's budget, we're also looking at KQA's, and we're also looking at Civica's budget. We can do a single motion for all of them, or we can do them separately. We have proposed language there, however you would like to. This cat. Don't let my cats know that I said that.
Mr. Everett, I appreciate the extra work that you went through over the weekend with Civica in order to get the numbers that you needed. Did you have any updates, any of those that you want to discuss now or during the supplemental budget time?
Probably during the supplemental
Okay.
budget.
Well, I will just say, Mr. Arizona, I appreciate your hard round. It's always good. And for, with me answering some of my questions before. So I'm glad for where we are at. I will just state a concern. The process around this is similar with the audit. Getting what we needed from Civica was a bit late again, which I know no doubt caused a lot of stress. And one thing I don't know that we accounted for when that school came online, how much work our finance department would have to do to educate them on how CAUTA works. Because unfortunately there's things we need to do for us. So I would raise that as a concern. They're still new and I get they're finding their feet, but my hope would be that for next year it's different and they're a little bit more prepared for these sorts of things, because it's just, I think the amount of burden that has been placed on our staff more than I was led to expect they would be doing. And that's really kind of spring between the audit and between the budgeting process. And I just want to say thank you to Michael. You kind of went above and beyond, where they needed to go. I appreciate your work, and I'm glad we're able to be good partners with them in that regard. But it is just a concern I would note.
Do we feel prepared to put all the groupings of the budgets into one motion? I feel good about it.
I would say make that motion.
Okay. I motion that we approve the Weld RE5J proposed budget for the school year 2023 and 24 as stated.
And are you including?
Including our charter school, Civica, as well as Knowledge Quest Academy.
Okay.
The use of the fund balances.
Did I mess that up?
Well, it's a separate to L. We have to approve the use of the fund balances as well. That's
Oh,
a separate one. There's actually, we do,
it's two separate.
there's 4.
Oh, there's 4 separate.
If you just add the fund balance, though, we could move forward with.
Adding the fund balance.
So I will second,
Okay.
so we can discuss.
So we have a motion for, by Director Johnson to adopt the district's proposed budget for 2023-24, using the beginning fund balance for 23-24, approving or adopting KQA's proposed budget for 23-24, and adopting Civic proposed budget for 23-24. With a second by Vice President Sassano. Any discussion?
I think I would just kind of echo what Reverend said about Civica's budget in particular. It's a little concerning how long that took to get. And like you said, I know they're finding their feet for a new school. This is all part of the process, but can encourage them next year to get things done in a little more time fashion. I think that would go a long way towards keeping some of Mr. Everest's hair on his head. So anyway, just to state that officially, I think we need to, if it means us as a district working with them, or if it means helping them find support in some way to do that, we got to get process cleaned up a little bit.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Jessica, would you pull board?
Monica Johnson,
Yes.
Nate Fasano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott,
Yes.
Cole.
Yes. You got some money now.
All right.
We'll move on to our special business. The first item is the
The
supplemental.
supplemental budget. Mr. Everest, what details would you like to share with us on this supplemental budget for this school year, correct?
Yes, for the current school year. Thank you again, Superintendent Butler. Need for supplemental budgets. Core district will have new supplemental budgets for its student equity and capital reserve funds. Core district will also need to have an updated use of beginning fund balance solutions. Civica will need to have June supplemental budgets for their general fund and for the Civica building core fund. And KQA doesn't need any supplemental budgets for this year. Moving on to the next slide. Our student activity fund, revenues and expenditures have exceeded the level budgeted in the January supplemental budget. There have been greater levels of fundraising and expenditure for student clubs and athletics than was planned for in January. Also, the inclusion of Newell High School's new digital scoreboard into Fund 23. We have brick pavers and sponsorship revenues of approximately $70,000, and a down payment for the scoreboard of $109,000. I'm proposing to increase the revenue budget for this fund by $350,000 to $1.1 million, and increase expenditure budget by $450,000 to $1.2 million. Moving to the next slide. So the summary for the proposed revised student activity fund, we again would see a beginning fund balance of $148,000, with budgeted revenues of $1.1 million, budgeted expenditures of $0.2 million. This would have a net fund balance increase of $100,000, which would leave us with a budget ending fund balance in this fund for $548,000. Moving to our capital reserve fund. Again, revenues and expenditures for capital reserve fund will exceed the level budget for in the January supplemental budget. The prime driver for increase in revenue is $380,000 from Ledge Rock Quince cash in lieu that we got this year. The primary expenditure driver is the need to pay for half of the needed water rights for New Roosevelt High School. And then on the slide, I just kind of detailed out a plan for the water rights. We need a total of $1,179,000 for additional water rights for our new high school. One half of that is due this month, which is $1,589,500. We are planning to pay around $990,990 from our cash in lieu funds that are housed in the capital reserve fund, with the remaining $618,000 to come from our building fund. This plan will leave $300,000 remaining in the district's shared cash in lieu account between Johnstown and Milliken. This proposal would increase our revenue budget by $444,962 to about $1.8 million, and it would increase our expenditure budget by $676,805 to just over $2 million. With proposed budget, the summary would be beginning fund balance of the $2.1 million. Budgeted revenues would go to $1.8 million. Budgeted expenditures $1 million. This would result in a net fund balance decrease of around $223,000, leaving us with a budgeted ending fund balance in this fund $1.8, $1.9 million. Of that $1.8 million, we would have about $1.5 million in district's capital reserve, and then the remaining $347,000 would be our cash in lieu, our ending cash in lieu balance. Moving to the next slide, beginning fund balance resolution. This year, the Colorado Preschool Fund will be closed due to the Universal Create program that's going to be starting up next year. The funds will need to be used up in this fund to be able to close it. And then the following use of beginning fund balance resolution, it shows the current budgeted spend down in district's funds. So then the next slide gives that resolution, which now will include Fund 19, spending that fund balance down. And then the following is just the district's appropriation resolution. And then the next slide is, so the Civica General Fund, supplemental, June supplemental, there are minor modifications to their general fund for this supplemental budget. And then the summary for this would be their beginning fund balance of $209,000, budgeted revenues $1.9 million, almost $2 million, budgeted expenditures a little over $2 million. This results in a net fund balance decrease of $120,000, which would leave them with a budgeted ending balance for this year of $89,128. Then moving to the next slide, the Civica Building Fund. Civica needs to have a June supplemental budget because they did approve a Fund 52 budget in January. The Civica Building Corp is what's categorized as an enterprise fund. This is what Civica's auditors did their prior audit. There's a choice between with these building corp funds for charter schools to either have them be an enterprise fund, like which was chosen for Civica, or to have it as a special revenue fund, which is how KQA accounts for it. Them choosing an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund has accounting that's similar to a private business. And with that, it looks a little bit different. Well, actually, it looks quite a bit different than kind of the accounting presentations that we're used to in school finance. One of the major differences is that the proceeds from the state sale of funds to finance their purchase of their school building was not reported as revenue. So that's going to, we'll see that on the subsequent slide. Their building corp fund, similar to Civica's building corp fund, receives income from their general fund. Actually, you could go back, I'm sorry. Their building corp fund receives rental income from their general fund, and that pays principal and interest payments on the mortgage for their building. In this current year, this fund also paid almost $2 million in capital improvements, with remaining cash proceeds from the sale of state bonds. And that capital improvements was basically to finish out the remainder of the other half of the building they occupied for this year. And then the summary for the building corp fund looks a little different than what we're used to. It's kind of due to the accounting differences between an enterprise fund and a special revenue fund or operating fund like what we're normally used to. They have a beginning balance of negative $100,000. They're having budget revenues in this fund for this year of $281,000. They have budgeted expenditures of $2.4 million. That results in a net fund decrease of $2 million, which leaves them with negative ending fund balance for this year of $0.9 million. And then the remainder of this is just the supplemental budget that was submitted by Civica. So the appropriation resolution signed by the board president, and then the detailed listing out of accounts. So this concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions?
So you're gonna have to explain for my simple brain how Civica especially doesn't truly have a negative funds of almost $3 million.
So the big difference is that with an enterprise fund, so the state issued bonds for them to generate cash for them to purchase that building and then to, finish building out that building. That sale in an enterprise fund doesn't generate revenue for them. In contrast, when the district back in 2021, January 2021, when we did our big bond offering, that came into our building fund as revenue. And so then you see in that we have a positive fund balance, and it looks normal to us with what we're using. With the enterprise fund, with its accounting done similar to how a business's accounting is done, it isn't handled that way. So they do have the cash to be able, they spent almost $2 million this year, rating the interior of that building, their building expansion. They did that with cash that was generated from the sale of those bonds. So they have the cash.
But it's not in this fund that we're looking at here.
It is in the fund. It's just the problem is that not counted. So fund balance, what drives fund balance is revenue expenditures. And then if you have more revenue than expenditures, your funds grows. If you have more expenditures than revenue, your fund balance shrinks. They don't have that revenue component in their enterprise fund.
Okay.
So it looks strange.
So this is really just a paper problem, though.
It's a paper problem. They have the cash able to do that. They go into debt almost $2 million to finish out the inside of the building. They have the cash, and they spent the cash from the sale of the funds.
Right. Okay. This is why I'm not an accountant, but I appreciate the explanation. So thank you.
So do they have any remaining bond proceeds, or?
I believe they have a little bit.
But that's not easy to see.
You have to look at bank statements. It doesn't, with how the accounting is done,
I like when you do it.
I would have preferred it to have been a special revenue fund. I didn't get a vote.
You already talked about this, and I'm only now just I think I kind of get it. But okay.
Any other questions? Monica, you probably have a list of them. You're filling in for Amanda. You have to have
don't
all
put
that.
me in Amanda's shoes. She's way too at all of this. My questions were that is how we ended up in a negative balance if we really weren't. And I think you explained really well for non-accountants, for librarians who like words more than they like numbers. So thank you for that explanation, because that was my question too.
Okay, once again, we have three options here. We can take them individually or wrap them up in one.
I'm doing it in one. I would move we adopt the fiscal 22-2023 supplemental budget for June for the Weldon County School District RE5J. The refunds, including the use of the beginning fund balance and it goes with state law for ensuing fiscal year beginning during July 2021 and ending June 30th, 2023. Include in there the adoption of the fiscal 2023 supplemental budget for Civica and the appropriate funds, including their beginning fund balances.
I second.
We have a motion by Reverend Scott, by Director Johnson to approve the district's June supplemental budget, use of the district's beginning fund balance, and to approve Civica's June supplemental budget. Any discussion?
I'm gonna say it again. I don't like the way Skid does their accounting. And I know that's not a comment on anybody in this room. It's chosen to do their, but it makes it look like they're in the whole almost $3 million to the uneducated, which is my eye.
And in Civica's defense, it was the auditors who chose that treatment.
Okay, that's good to know.
They didn't specifically go out and choose, that was the auditors that they chose that chose it that way. They had a choice between two different options, they chose this one.
So probably should ask this question, but can it be changed? Or are they stuck with that now because that's how it's set up? And
a lot depends on their current auditors because they did change auditors.
Okay.
There would need to be a restatement. I mean, counting, you can always undo things.
Okay. And it's neither here nor there right now. I understand that, and it's not even our decision; it's their decision. But I was curious. So okay, I've stated my concern. So
Okay.
move on.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Jessica, would you please pull the board?
Thomas Johnson,
Yes.
Nate Fasano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott,
Yes.
Michael Witt.
Yes. We'll move on to our next item.
The cash flow loan program. Mr. Evers,
Thank you.
I know there's a few numbers in this one too.
There are a couple of them as well. So just a quick overview of the state program. Colorado school districts can participate in the state interest-free loan program to help spouse cash flow timing. State loan completely interest-free to the district. State loan is not long-term debt. It must be repaid in this cycle by June 25th, 2024. State loan is not an indication of financial problems for the district. Moving to the next slide. So there are basically three factors that are impacting our need for and the size of the loan, potential loan the district will be getting through the state program here. First one, and really the most important one, is kind of the paying of local property tax receipts. The salary increases for next school year, also a factor. And then also the shifting mix between state and local funding for the district. I'll talk about each one of these shortly. On the next slide, local property tax receipts. Our school district receives most of its local tax revenue in the months of March, May, and June. We start receiving significant amounts of local property tax 9 months into our fiscal year. The district gets 1/12 of its state share funding each month. So our state share funding is essentially equal throughout the year, but we get, almost all of our local property tax in the 3 months. And this is just due to the collection cycle of local property taxes in Colorado. That's just how the calendars work. On the next slide, district salary increases for next year. Salary and benefits comprise over 81% of our budgeted general fund expenditure next year. So that's where the money is in our budget. Our Board of Education approved a 10.6% salary increase for next year. And then that's down to about 2.3 million in salary increase, 526,000 in benefit increases, for a total of about 2.8 million for next year. So a significant increase in salary and benefits for next year. And then this slide, the shifting mix between state and local funding for the district. So there's two tables on the slide. The top table is our assessed value and changes. So this is the previous 4 years and what is currently being projected for the next tax collection. So, as you can see, we in tax year 2020, 638 million in assessed valuation. Year 2021, a decrease in that of over 20%. In 2022, another decrease of about 5.7%. And then for our current year, tax year 2023, we saw a really big increase of almost 36%, which basically took us back to where we were in 2020 for our assessed valuation rate. What's being projected for next tax year is an increase of almost 46% in that assessed valuation rate. The call that I was on with this, kind of the consensus was that these are probably pretty good estimates. I mean, it's going to be exactly that. But these are pretty good estimates, although I would add a caveat that 1 year in my prior district, they projected significantly higher than what they came in at. So it's definitely not an exact science. But kind of the consensus on the call was, we're looking at, upwards of $1 billion in assessed valuation for our district.
Do we get it broken down by property type or just a raw number?
No, we do. We get it broken down into a lot of different property types.
Okay. Because I remember, 2021, 2022, the big year with the oil and gas valuation.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
And then 2023 was that remake mostly.
Yes.
And then it's 2020. I'm just curious, 24 is mostly driven by oil and gas. If there's some, more of a mix.
My suspicion is that it's going to be significantly driven by oil and gas. Although, as we've all heard of the news, and as we've kind of, seen in the mail when we got our assessments from the county assessor, that local property, our property valuations have increased significantly. So that's going to be a significant part. The difference, though, is that with assessed valuation, with oil and gas, 75% of the actual valuation becomes assessed valuation. With residential property, it's like 6.6, 6.7% of the actual valuation becomes assessed value.
Right. Because a lot of the new commercial will be in there yet, because it's not done.
Yeah, I mean that's.
So like the Buc-ee's and Ledge Rock and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's not in here.
Okay, that'll be future. Okay.
That's future years. And and then commercial has 27% of its actual value turns into assessed value.
We like
so, commercial's great, oil and gas is fantastic. Residential, get the bang for the value.
Problem with the oil and gas is it's too volatile.
And oil and as you see, oil and gas is very volatile. So kind of our assessed valuation picture. So assessed valuation then drive our total program funding, the mix between our state share and our local share. So bottom table here, so in 22-23 in our current year, local property taxes account for about 40% of our program funding. State share accounts for about 60%, about a 40-60 split, local state. For next year, using the 949 million assessed valuation number, that's going to increase our local property tax share of our total program to almost 55%.
Amazing. Wow.
And then state share goes to, you know, around 45%. So it almost, the share almost flips.
I would say it's always, you know, people talk to us about taxes, is like when this goes up, it's great, but we don't get any more money. Just change where the money comes from and who's paying it, but like, it's nice that the split's different, and then the more we can take it out homeowners, the better, but it's not like we get extra cash.
No, we don't get any extra cash. And also, another component of this, not as significant of a component, is so, you know, as you may remember, I've been talking about, we're going up 1 mil each year till we get 27 mils. So with this assessed valuation, 909 million, that 1 mil is going to be additional, you know, almost $1 million that is going to come, you know, from local taxes for our total program. So that's definitely a component as well for this. So, and then, you know, what's important with this state share, local share, is in the previous slide, we got our local money starting in March, 9 months into our fiscal year. Our state share is 12 equal payments each month. So for this coming year, we're going to be getting smaller, you know, we're going to start off next month in July with a smaller state share payment from the state. And then go, you know, all the way through next year. And then only in March will we start getting our local property tax cash. So
as the local percentage increases, it's gonna negatively impact cash flow.
It's a negatively impact cash flow. So if we look at our last slide here, report action. District administration is requesting approval for authorization to borrow up to $12 million through the state loan program. The actual need is currently projected to be about 11.3 million. And then best practice is to authorize more in case of any type of foreseen need. So I don't have to, you know, I don't need to come back and get additional approval from the board to be able to borrow, you know, incrementally a little bit more if we need to. And then the actual amount borrowed through the program is based on the demonstrated need through the loan program reporting. So each month in this program, you know, I've already submitted to the state projected cash flow, you know, going out 12 months for next year. Each month I will update that cash flow with anything that I can, you know, see coming in the future, but then I update it with actuals, you know, going back. So in August, I update it with July actuals, you know, each month. As each month progresses, I backfill that projection with actuals. So by way of comparison, the board approved last year at this time a $4 million loan, of which we really didn't need any of. Primarily because of the educational broadband spectrum bill that we did. That got us through. This is really kind of a worst scenario. It's difficult to know, you know, kind of exactly when, you know, certain revenues come in, and then just kind of the timing of expenditures. You know, again, this is based off of, you know, all our positions being filled on day one. So that's going to be, it's going to be less, because that won't be the case. I don't know at what level we'll be at, but it's not going to be at 100% on day one. So, so again, this is kind of a case scenario for what we need to borrow.
So Michael, if I'm understanding correctly, the 12 million that we request from state is because our revenue won't come in until March, May, and June. And then in March, we make a payment back to the state, I'm assuming.
We're going to be kind of deep into the program, where it gets a little strange because they break the month into thirds. And 1/3 of the month, we'll get from the state, and then another third of the month, we'll be paying money back, and we'll kind of be doing this dance until, we get, more of our, like in March, it's going to be, you give me some, the state will give us some money, and then we'll give the state some money, and we'll kind of go back and forth on that until, until we, towards the end of the year where we paid off the loan and, then it's just, our cap at that point that we get it.
I'm glad you're doing it. It all makes sense to you, and we have so much faith in you, but I appreciate all the explanations.
Any other questions? We do have a recommended motion, if anybody is so inclined.
Lost you because it's so long. I move to authorize the participation by the district and the state treasurer's interest-free loan program for Colorado school districts and borrowing under such program in an aggregate principal amount up to $12 million, establishing the terms, conditions, and loans to the district pursuant to such program, providing for the payment of and secure for such loans, and authorizing the execution, delivery, and acceptance of documents in connection with the loans.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice President Sassano, by Reverend Scott, to approve participation in the state industry loan program and to borrow up to $12 million in said program. Any questions or further discussion? Hearing none, Jessica?
Monica Johnson,
Yes.
Nate Fasano,
Yes.
Jeremy Scott,
Yes.
Michael Whale.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to our new business.
Our new business, and President Wales and members of the board, I want to acknowledge incoming personnel director, Mr. Rodriguez, has already started early to help us in the personnel realm of human relations, and is here to talk about a revision of policy that deals with instructional staff compensation salary schedule. So I'll turn it over to Rodriguez, and thank you again for not only being the finale to support the district in this manner.
Sure, you want to do this one?
I'm tired.
So President Wells, Senate Trussler, members of the board, as Ms. Trussler mentioned, this policy reflects around compensation and horizontal advancement on the salary schedule. So we want to have some of the changes and kind of revisions you've added. The first addition is adding language in the board policy that acknowledges the additions last year to our agreement that acknowledge doctorates and PhDs. So that's adding that into the language. We wanted to clarify some verbiage on credit hours versus contact hours. Ultimately, the goal here was to make sure that this is user-friendly and easy for our teachers to understand when they're going through the process of horizontal movement. I also added clarification on the language regarding credit requirements they need in order to be more user-friendly and eliminate any confusion. Some of the highlights, that's clarification on university credit requirements. We added language reflecting that it must tie to district vision or goals. Added 1-year timeline as part of their, or as part of a degree program. So that kind of makes sure that when we approve courses, they're completing in a timely manner. They're also adding an addition of cohorts and other sponsored courses. So I know that we presented as instructional coaches a few months ago about some of the opportunities to our staff. So this would allow some of the opportunities that they take part in outside of the contract and be included in that move in the salary schedule. We also created an approved list. So currently right now, every teacher can go and submit all coursework for prior approval. However, a lot of those courses are the same. So we see a lot of teachers kind of doing courses together and working together. So if we see kind of some classes that are being through more than once, we'll add those to an approved course list. So we have to go through the process of prior approval. They can just say it's on there, the course, and submit it for horizontal advancement. And then the last change is just kind of in that timeline section at the end of the board policy to reflect current payroll practices. The old language still reflects our September through August pay periods, but now pay period to reflect August through July contracts, so that's just updating that language like that. This is our first reading, so do you have any questions or comments, suggestions?
Anytime you're making stuff clearer and more evenly, you're probably doing the right thing. So just, yeah.
All right.
I will add that we did work alongside JMA leadership as well, current leadership as well as the principal for the upcoming year, to kind of make sure that we got their input and make sure that they're going to be the people using it, understand it. So we had a good work session with that.
Okay. Well, it is up for first reading, so we will revisit this in a couple weeks anyway, a few weeks, I'll say a few. Any other questions for Mr. Rodriguez? Okay, we will move on to citizen comments on general topics. Mrs. Wakeman would like to address the board.
You want me to use the podium?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Peggy Wickman, 305 South Marjorie Avenue, Bedford, Howard Street, in Milliken. I wanted to my sincere appreciation to you, Mrs. Tressler, for your service to this district and what you have done. If there was, having left at a pretty volatile time, I'm amazed at how well you pulled everything together and what you've done. And I so appreciate getting the opportunity to get to know you better and spend some time with you. Part of the time that I spent with Mrs. Tressler was yesterday on a tour of Roosevelt High School. And I wanted to say the new Roosevelt High School. And I went to say all of the board members, what a tremendous accomplishment you've done there. It was amazing to walk through it. And I'm a little worried about our kids being pretty entitled coming out of that school, but what a fantastic thing that's happened for all of them. With our tour yesterday, everybody pretty much that was on it was in awe of the building, and we were discussing the building, and I said, I don't know how our teachers are going to keep up with the kids all over that building and how fantastic it will be. And one of the people in the group said, it's not about the building, it's the staff and the teachers and the people that make the building. And it was so awesome to me to think about that. Here we have this fantastic building for the kids, and to know still, and I believe that that's been a strong thing for this district from the day that we became RE5J, was that it all depended on the staff of people that work with the kids, and that starts with all of you here. And I just want to say thank you for all that you do. Sometimes it's thankless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I ask you a question? Were you alumni of the original Roosevelt High School?
Yes.
Someone told me that here tonight. So I love to get the perspective of the alumni who attended the old high school and for them to see the new high school. I think they can give great insight, and it's so fun to hear from the alumni.
It's pretty amazing, and years ago, much was more tutorial than what's kids have much more opportunity nowadays to express feel that my class was the incoming freshman class, so we were the first ones to go 4 years Roosevelt. And my older sister graduated from Johnstown High School, and my other sister graduated from Ellington High School. So we had quite a conglomeration. You know, we were told when we stood up, when we sat down, when we cheered. It was trying, it was a difficult time, but it's all paid off. It's all I said, so.
Thank you. It was fun going on it with you. I know you were part of all this too.
Thanks. I'll never forget that work session we had when we talked about the CT program and that has become the reality now.
Yeah. A lot
I
of
think you and I are the only still around from that.
Yeah, so a lot of that is so surreal.
Yeah.
It was just, I mean, it was chicken scratch on a piece of paper, and now it's really happening now.
Yeah.
Careful what you write down.
That's right. Okay, is there any other items that are necessary by the board?
Just to let you all know, I think our meeting in July is the 21st.
Correct.
Not the 21st.
The 19th.
Yes, 19th.
You were just checking to see if I was listening.
I was. I will be out of town that week. So I won't be
Okay.
at the July meeting.
Okay, and that's our ribbon cutting.
Yep.
I think we said groundbreaking earlier, but yeah, ribbon cutting.
So I will be there.
Would you like us to
Well,
zoom
no,
you
wait.
in?
That's not ribbon cutting, it's the ground.
The
That's right,
groundbreaking.
yes.
Yeah,
Speaking
the
it.
groundbreaking.
And now, yeah, now I'm thinking about it, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
because
you're
I
not
was-
gonna get a shovel.
I know.
We should get a Mr. Sano cutout, put it on the shovel.
That's
We can do that.
all unnecessary.
I will talk about that after I adjourn. Cutouts are illegal, or should be. So, all right, if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and adjourn us at 8:54. Thank you.